This was part of a study program a couple of weeks ago, and I was sponsored by one of the universities. And one of the programs we were talking about, one lecturer was talking about extremists, and they were highlighting the white supremacy kind of extremism that is taking place in the West, and also looking at lone wolves, what we call these lone wolves. One person gets up in the morning and he's not motivated. He's motivated by his kind of socialization that has taken place in the last 5 to 10 years. He gets up and he decides to shoot up some people, and then there they come up with this response saying that the whole of society has to get together, right, and find ways or means to kind of diffuse this kind of extremism. So my question was, okay, here in Sri Lanka, the whole of society has to get together, and all of us have an equal responsibility in dealing with the extremism that is in the Tamil community, that's in the Sinhala community, that's in the Muslim. I think people have to realize that we have collective responsibility.
Absolutely, but I would add to that, this collective responsibility becomes a toothless tiger without the support of the national engine.
Yeah, correct.
If a government, if the position of a government is that the so-called collective society has to resolve this internally, it doesn't work that way. This has to be advocated and empowered by the state to the degree of having laws or policies that, forbid this form of thought or the propagation of this kind of thought in any way or form.
So yeah, I would take it one more step ahead. When you talk about the state machinery, I think we need to find champions, people who champion.
Yes.
And I don't want to mention names or whatever, but I think I'm sorry to say, some people who champion this cause are no more today.
That's right. That's right.
We lost some great politicians even during the last couple of years.
Great. I would say it's an irreplaceable loss.
Yeah.
It's a profound loss.
Yeah. When you think of people like Mangala, right, and who really kind of stood up for this sort of thing. So I think it's time, Aman, for your generation to kind of pull your socks up and pull your sleeves and say, okay, we need to fit into this role and take it on.
See, in terms of so I suppose I'm at what I'd like to call the intermediate generation, because nowadays a generation after me that has come up and is far more vociferous and dynamic than even my generation ever was. But something I've always said to youngsters who've spoken to me, I've always told them, look, it's very admirable to be on the left, or it's also admirable to stand up for what is right. But that being said, you must never lose sight of the reality on the ground, because you can't just adopt a policy that works well in another nation for whatever reason, and imagine that it would be easy to implement such a policy in this country, because you first need to understand the temperament of the people and the issues that the people of this country are facing on a day-to-day basis. So what may appear to be the most important ingredient in our society or in the future of our nation moving forward may not be the highest priority to people who don't have who don't have money to put food on their table. right? So you need to see that there are checks and balances everywhere, and unless you find some form of equilibrium here, it's going to be very difficult to achieve what you want, irrespective of how noble your efforts are. So yes, I agree with you that the future generations, and perhaps even my generation, we have a great role to play. But in doing so, we should never lose sight of what the issues are on the ground amongst the common man, as it were. And it is those issues, I mean, you don't build a house top down, do you? You build it bottom up.
Yeah.
So that is the process we need to follow.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think it has to be a kind of a generational project.
Yes.
So, and having, go for the lower hanging fruit first, and not get discouraged. That's why I always say we got to have a national strategy where we know, what are the performance indicators that we have set in place to know, where we know we are going in the correct direction. So maybe in the first couple of years, we should be able to achieve few things, maybe another 5 years, more things like that. And I think if you have that kind of approach and try to get the state to buy සිංහලෙන් කියනවනේ වදනෙක් දන්නේ ආණ්ඩුවයි රජයයි අතර තියෙන වෙනස. ආණ්ඩුව and රජය are two different things, like that, the state and the government, or whatever we call it. So we got to work with this 1.5 million state public servants that we have. Right?
But there again, and I must confess to be somewhat disgruntled by this, because you used a word, or rather a phrase, getting the state to buy in. And that's my issue, because from my standpoint, and I'm subject to correction, but from my standpoint, I don't think if it is something as pivotal as charting a better future for our country, one where there is economic sustainability, where there is harmony and coexistence, I don't understand why society has to convince the state to buy in. That should be the paramount responsibility of any good government. But that's not something you and I are seeing today. So that's quite sad, but that's for another discussion.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we must realize that the government that we are talking about are people from society. They didn't drop from some other country or some other planet.
No.
These are the people that we are producing, and these are the people that we are going year after year and voting them in and saying, okay, you leave. And we give them maybe another additional 100,000 votes, for them to continue. Okay, I think we have kind of taken a lot of your time, Aman.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
I initially told you half an hour, but I have taken much more than half an hour of your time.
How long?
Right? I think we're all I'm working from my bedroom.
Oh, right.
Right. So I've been asked not to step out of the house by my children because of my age and all that.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you very much. I think you brought out a lot of insights, and I think you not only spoke for yourself, but you spoke for the young generation of Muslims and generation of communicators in this country, and I'm very thankful for your points. I think we should continue this conversation on another day, but certainly we must work together and build a better tomorrow for our children, our grandchildren.